You know, this union is at its best in unity. We don't distinguish in quality between in-service and retirees, between various functional chapters, and one of the most important ones is the Federation of Nurses, UFT. And some of us came a little late to union organizing. There are people here who were in UFT from the beginning, but some of us came in as the next generation. But when the nurses were organizing, and when they were picketing, and they were pushing, personally it was Richmond Memorial Hospital, Staten Island University South for me, but so many different places, and enlisted some of us to go help out, and we did so proudly. So I'm just so honored to include nurse retirees in these awards, and I just asked Jerry if you would say a word about each of them.
My name is Jerry Goldman, and I certainly can't agree with what Ann would say, but it's a pleasure to be able to be here with our two retirees, Eula Libert and Joanne Walsh. The visiting nurse service has been part of the UFT since 1980. It's the largest home health care agency in the world. We represent nurses in the visiting nurse service in all 5 boroughs. And these two nurses, beyond being experts in their field of health care and providing patient care in the home, they are true trade unionists. In 1980 and on, nurses were professional. They couldn't be in unions, and the world out there was tough for them. But they stood up, they came forward, and both in their own way were individual fighters, delegates, representatives, grievance reps, and advocates for our members. And I'm so proud to be able to give these awards to Eula and Joanne. It's just unfortunate that they've retired, because, as you know, it's very difficult to replace professionals who've been doing this union work for over 20 years. But there's a new crew out there, and we're fighting along, and there's a big future ahead for the union for nurses, and I'm very proud to say Ann Goldman is leading them in a great struggle against private sector employers. And if you think the DOE is tough, you haven't seen anything until you fight the healthcare industry in this country. So again, Eula and Joanne, come on up. Great job.
Hi, my name is Joanne Walsh. When I first joined the union in visiting nurse service back in 1984, I was really reluctant to become active in the union, but I had my husband on one side, who was a union activist for the Teamsters, and Ann Goldman and Angela Kahn pushing me to become more involved, so I did. And I found my voice. I did things that I never thought I would be able to do to contribute to the union, and I became an advocate not only for my patients, but for myself and other union members. Thank you for this.
Good morning, everyone. I want to tell you that when I first became involved with any type of union, was when I worked in a hospital in Brooklyn, a New York State representative. And I remember that overtime was like the person on the next shift didn't come to you working. Never mind if you had a family or children or had to go to school, overtime was when you were needed at the moment that they needed it. And we were complaining because it was short-staffed to begin. And because this type of thing caused people to call in sick the next day, and then you do the same thing to your friend by calling in sick at your turn. And when we went to New York State, who represented us, they had a meeting, and the first thing they said to us was, you know, nurses complain too much. Yeah. Doctors work, and they work forever, and they don't complain. Well, I was so upset that the next day I went down to the nursing office and said I wanted my money back that was given to them because they were not representing me. Of course, I couldn't get my money back, so I tried to get a form to fill out to say I didn't want them to take any more money from me. Couldn't do that either. Anyway, I left and eventually I was happy at the hospital. I was okay. I went to work with visiting nurse and was invited to go to a meeting with UFT. And I said, I don't need to go anywhere for someone to tell me that I shouldn't complain, so I'm not going. And it took 3 months before I did eventually go to one of the meetings. And it was one of the best things that I have ever done. I tell you, I found out things that I thought and took for granted, that was not the way it is. You have to know what you're doing. And I'm not speaking about doing your job, but I'm talking about just in everyday life as well. Where we were taught, you know, you have a problem, you have someone over you who's a supervisor, a manager, or whatever the title might be, you have to let that person know. You cannot just decide that person's stupid, so you ain't going to tell them anyway. And that was something that I learned from UFT. So I became so involved because I liked what I saw and what I heard, that I decided I would become more involved, and I did. And I learned such a lot. Not only for me, but for other nurses like me, for people who were thinking of going into nursing, for people who thought they knew it all, and even for the people that were over us, who really have jobs that you were hired to look after this particular group of professionals, but they didn't know what it entailed. To them, it was just giving this patient to this person, and that's it. And if you didn't know how to do a particular procedure, well, somebody would try on the phone to get you to do it. Well, there's a life and death business. That don't work that way. And we learned that you have to stand up for your right, but you've got to do it in a particular manner where you still remain right, don't care what happens. And I think that I've heard of other unions doing good, but as far as I'm concerned, UFT is it. I became part of the negotiating team for salaries and working conditions and things like that. And I remember one year that we were having negotiations, and the CEO of VNS was so interested that she went off to Australia on a visit. And they were talking about they didn't have money and what we got to give back and don't have to give back. And we went out on a break, and there was a great big bus in the front of the gorgeous townhouse with VNS all over. Every other word was VNS, and it was plastered with all the good things that VNS do. And they took pride in telling us that it cost them $1 million. My thing was sell the damn bus and put that $1 million into our what we were asking for. Of course, we got a wonderful contract, because we did not want to hear anything from them. They had money. And we didn't care how they get it. They were going to take care of us because we were doing the very best that we could. And there were tops in every time they had some kind of evaluations, they came out on top. And that was because of the workers. So I didn't want to hear, and the rest of us didn't want to hear. And after we saw that bus, we wanted to go out on strike. We didn't care what they wanted to do. We wanted to show them up, which we didn't because of the guidance of Anne and Jerry and people like that, who, you know, made sure that we got what we wanted and sometimes more. And they learned there's no such thing as give back. And that we always said, you say give back, but we say fight. And that is what we've done. And this is a wonderful union, I think. But one thing I want to say, even though we can't just leave things like that. There are things out there that's happening politically, which is going to cause the demise of a lot of us. Everyone's entitled to health care, and good health care at a reasonable cost. And we have to see that it's even better than it is, and make sure that no one gets rid of it. Okay? We've got to make sure that people can work for living wages. So we have to keep on behind, like on our president, whether we like him or not, and our legislators. They're elected by us, and they say government is no place to work, but they're all fighting to become part of government. So we've got to make sure that we support the people that our union pays. And we've got to get everyone involved and hope that more and more people will become involved in it. And I thank you, and I think this is wonderful. And I want to know, can we have it next week? The same thing over again? Is that okay?
These are our nurse retirees of the year. Please give them a round of applause. Dorothy Callissy. Come on up, Dorothy. Dorothy has been working as a writer at the New York